We are tracking major heat returning to the forecast after a brief break in those 100s. I'm ABC 10 Chief Meteorologist Monica Wood. So let's get right to it here. Excessive heat warning going back into place for our Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday forecast. We're back into that major heat risk category, avoiding outside activities between 10 a.m. and 8 p.m. and potentially seeing some daily record highs in there. Also dealing with our heat advisory for some of the higher elevations through the foothills and parts of the Sierra, and then over towards the coast as well. Those highs near 100 with very warm overnight lows. Lows will only be falling to about 80 or so. So we've been tracking this consecutive 100-degree stretch in downtown Sacramento. We're not going to get there. Tuesday's high reached 98. That's going to end that streak at 9 days of 100 plus degree heat. We would have needed to get to 11 to get to that consecutive 100 plus degree streak record. So you can see how we've been dealing with the heat here with some of those peak heat days, 113, 110, really intense heat over the last several days. Now, it should be noted, though, that 9-day stretch is something that will go down in the record books as the third longest streak. So 11 was the longest back on July 16th through the 26th in 2006. And then 10 days on September 1st, and that lasted through the 9th back in 2022. So we hit that 9-day stretch this year. It was also noted in 1996, 84, 81, and 66. So you can see these 100-degree stretches are something to be of note, certainly throughout the valley. Now, also in our stretch here, we did tie one record, and that's going to be the 2-day stretch of 110-degree heat. We tied that one initially set back in 2022, and then we tied that for this year when we hit those highs over the holiday weekend, unfortunately. The streak was broken because of the southwest winds that kicked in late yesterday, lasted through today. It's that cooler breeze that comes in from the Pacific. Highs were only in the 60s and 70s right along the coast, so we're able to pull in some of that cooler air right along that I-80 line. It stretches north and south, so some of us were still close to 100 for today. But what happens tonight through our Wednesday is we don't have those winds. They taper off through the overnight hours. So tomorrow morning, we're going to be noticing much less wind in the forecast coming in from that cooling Pacific breeze. But it sure did feel great for today. Saturday's high and Sacramento Executive 110. Now, again, that's a little bit different than what we were seeing at downtown Sacramento. Average high 93, and today we were close to that at 94 degrees. Highs for today region-wide. Again, this is Sacramento Executive 94, but we reached highs close to 100 for Marysville and Modesto, close to 100 through the foothills, and for the Sierra, close to 90. Now we're right back into that moderate to major heat risk category, also tracking fire weather Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Over the weekend, we will start to cool, but again, those two top headlines for our weather impacts will be fire weather and major heat through Friday, with dry fuels, low humidity, heat illness risk back in the forecast, with those temperatures hovering right around 110. Let's talk fire weather for just a moment. Oh, you saw that stretch of heat. Obviously, that's going to continue to dry out all the fuels. We haven't had any significant rain since the beginning of May, so several weeks here without any rain. And our current energy release component kind of monitoring where our potential is for extreme burning. For the Sacramento Valley and surrounding foothills, we're now in that category where extreme burn potential is a very likely category. We're at 76.23%, putting us in that threshold there. We'll be tracking that. Most of this has been grass fires for the lower elevations, but we have seen a little bit in the way of some of those foothills and lower Sierra fires starting to break out. That's putting us close to about 200,000 acres that have burned so far this year throughout the state, with about 3,500 fires burning, above that 2023 year-to-date average, as well as our 5-year average. All of these statistics compiled as of today. We head into the 8 to 14-day weather hazard outlook, with the Climate Prediction Center noting that we have a slight risk of a high wind risk throughout the valley and through parts of Oregon. But again, that's going to be for the lower elevations that it's a higher risk. Some of those northwest winds trying to kind of creep back there into our Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday forecast. Those are dry, warming winds, so preventing a spark, always keeping these things in mind. Mowing lawns, not dry grass. Also mowing in the morning, not during the peak heat in the afternoon. If you have the metal on the blades hitting a rock, that can end up equaling a spark. We've already been following a couple of stories where that happened this year. And then chains. This is a big travel season for camping. Make sure those chains are secure and not dragging behind, because that hits the road and then could potentially spark a fire on the roadside. Our heat risk jumps out of that moderate category into the major category for Wednesday. So basically, that level of heat is going to affect anyone without effective cooling and or adequate hydration. Some folks in the valley, believe it or not, do not have air conditioning, just kind of using fans. There have been cooling centers that have been opening. That's good news there, but a lot of heat risk developing over the next couple of days. And we even see some pockets of extreme heat, especially throughout the foothills, where we'll see those overnight lows only drop to about 80. Over the course of the weekend into early next week, that's when we really start to lower our heat risk throughout the valley. We've seen a lot of 100s this year, though, for downtown Sacramento, none in May. And again, that was the last time that we actually had any rain here. In June, we had 9 days with the hottest day at 104, and then we've had 9 in July with the hottest day at 113. So we've had a lot of 100s. This is way over what we saw last year. All of this contributing to some changes with our drought monitor. Earlier, about a week ago, we had no drought covering 97.18% of the state. Dryness about 2.82%. That put our drought severity and coverage index at 3. Now fast forward into the latest drought monitor reading, and we're starting to see more growth occurring with the drought severity and coverage index now at 6. Very much expected when we head in through our dry months because we don't have any rain. So, of course, drought is going to continue to grow. It's not necessarily accelerated with the growth. It's kind of tracking on the normal pace because, again, this is typical for us. We don't have any rain. Our weather impact alert, when is that going to take place? Wednesday, it lasts through Friday. Main impact, obviously, going to be heat. What we're needing to do is avoid the outdoors between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. If you can stretch it into 8 p.m., that's when we see those bigger drops in temperatures. Knowing the signs of heat exhaustion. That's going to be the lower threshold for some of the heat illnesses. That's going to be when someone feels thirsty, dizzy, nauseous, cool, clammy skin, and actually sweating a lot. Now, when it takes a notch up, definitely call 911. That's heat stroke. You have a headache, red, hot, dry skin, no sweating. That's a really dangerous situation. And we've already been tracking a couple of stories, not only in California, but through Oregon as well, where folks have been really dealing with the heat illnesses, including heat stroke and even some deaths as well. Our pets need to be considered as well. Too hot to trot. Air temperature at 95 degrees, the concrete 145. We're talking our air temperatures are going to be closer to about 105 to 110. So the concrete is going to be about 155 to 165. A good rule of thumb is just to place the back of your hand for about 5 seconds on whatever surface you're going to be walking your pet. If you can't even hold it there for 5 seconds, it's too hot to walk the dog. So it's really about timing, quite honestly. It's not that we can't be outdoors, but you can see how quickly the temperatures ramp up. We start tomorrow morning in the 60s. This is going to be our best time frame right here. Right after sunrise, we're going to start to warm things pretty rapidly, but our sunrise is at 5:51. So we have a couple of hours here to get outside and do some yard work, get the dogs out, get a morning jog, walk, run, whatever in, so you can do those outdoor activities. But after that, especially once we get to noon, when we start to see those temperatures close to 100 and then eventually on to 107, that's when it gets into the dangerous territory. And tomorrow night, by the way, is not going to cool as quickly. Weather-related fatalities, heat is the big one here. It kind of percolates in the background of all these bigger headline weather events with hurricanes, lightning, tornadoes, obviously flood. But heat remains the #1 weather-related killer in the United States. Our average first-day benchmarks, we've been hitting some pretty hot temperatures early in the season here. Now, we were pretty much right on target for the first 90, 95, 100, and then Once we got to that 105, we met that a little bit earlier. June 22nd is when we hit that for downtown Sacramento. Our first 110-degree day, typically July 21st, but this year we hit it on July 5th. So again, the holiday weekend was a total scorcher. And now we're going to get into the State Fair. That happens and opens on Friday at Cal Expo. For opening day at 10 a.m., we'll have 75 degrees, but we quickly ramp up those temperatures. By the time we get into the afternoon, highs will be warming into the 100s, 106. Sunset is at 8:31. Something to keep in mind as well, if you're out there at the Midway, sitting on some of those benches, especially some of the black ones, when you sit down, just be careful. They get really hot, 90 at 9 p.m., so still pretty warm out there for the evening hours. I mentioned that this is a big time for camping, and it's going to be warm, so just kind of some camping safety things to keep in mind, knowing the weather forecast, knowing that those overnight lows really aren't going to cool down too much, notifying friends and family of plans, knowing an evacuation route and shelters. Our fire weather is still going to be on the higher end Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, so pack your safety kit and a weather radio so you get those emergency alerts as soon as possible. What do you need to have in that emergency kit? Survival needs, including your first aid kit, medicine, food, and water for at least 3 days. The important documents, want to have a to-go bag ready, especially if you are at home, making sure that they're in a fireproof container, and have your preparedness kit in the car. You may have to spend a couple days in the car if those evacuation shelters aren't open yet, and remembering pets, all the needs that the pets have, and also being aware of any shelters that will take pets or even livestock. That's a big one as well. So the Futurecast is showing that high pressure ridge building back along with the heat, sinking warming air near record highs, especially peaking on Thursday. We'll get a little bit of relief coming our way on Saturday. But even at that point, one thing to note is that we'll just barely come out of those above normal highs on Sunday. Some of us still sitting very likely warmer deeper into the forecast. So July is going to be one of the hottest that we've had to deal with in quite some time as far as the long range planning is going. All right, looking at that forecast, you can see highs near 90 for the Sierra. We're in the 90s and 100s throughout much of the foothills. That's where we have that heat advisory in place. Heat advisory as well through parts of the coastal valley communities with highs close to 100. 70s along the coast. We get just a little tinge of that breeze coming in. As far as our forecast throughout the rest of the valley, widespread 100s. Tomorrow starting off okay, but then as we dig deeper into these 100s, we're not going to be cooling off as much overnight. In the mountains, slight chance of a thunderstorm coming our way on Saturday, and then we'll stay in the 100s for the foothills. Here you see some of those very warm overnight lows, 81 on Thursday morning, 80 Friday morning, Saturday morning around 80, still with highs close to 100. Along the coast, 70s, much more pleasant there, and then close to 70 over the weekend. So it's going to be one of those forecasts. Once again, got to call for that weather impact alert Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday with highs hovering right around 110. After we get past that, as we expand this to the 7-day forecast, you can see a little bit of relief over the weekend. Still kind of hovering right about, if not slightly above average. Looks like the most likely day we have the potential to tie a record will be on Thursday, possibly just shy of that. The record for downtown Sacramento, 112 degrees. So we have more weather playlists and in-depth forecast explainers and weather specials on ABC 10 Plus. You can download it for free on Apple TV, Roku, and Fire TV. We also, by the way, have our Emmy Award-winning special, The Future of California's Water.